You're watching the Green Machine Live. You're home for Irish football news and nostalgia. David Dunn here, joined by Nick Mendes and Martin Prendergast. Well, this was originally supposed to be a window review. However, breaking news in the last couple of hours, Stephen Kenny has left his role as the Republic of Ireland manager. This is breaking news. We're going to get into it. A statement has been released by the FAI. I'm going to read it to you in full. Here it is. Following a meeting this evening and a presentation to the board by CEO Jonathan Hill and Director of Football Mark Canham, the FAI board has decided that Stephen Kenny's contract as manager of the Ireland senior men's national team will not be renewed following the conclusion of the Euro 2024 qualification process. Having reviewed the 24 qualification campaign in its entirety and recognizing how difficult the group was, the results needed to realize our goal of qualification for the tournament were not achieved. The board agrees that now is the right time for change ahead of the friendly matches in March and June 2024 and the next Nations League campaign starting in September 2024. And it concludes with FAI CEO Jonathan Hill commented, over the period of his tenure, Stephen and his staff have worked tirelessly to create the right environment to support the development of a senior men's team. And we are hugely grateful for that considerable contribution. Stephen has also overseen an important period of transition for our senior men's national team and has given debuts to a significant number of new and younger players. And this will serve as a solid platform for whoever now takes this group of players forward. FAI President Jerry McEnany added, the board and all at the FAI would like to sincerely thank Stephen and his staff for their hard work, professionalism, and unwavering dedication to the team, the fans, and to Irish football. We wish Stephen every success for the future. The recruitment process for a new head coach is now underway. And just going to read out here, actually. I know it's very top heavy with my dulcet tones here, but bear with me, and we're going to get the lads' opinion in there now. And Martin and his sexy light, as you can see there if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. And then actually, we want to get your comments as well, guys. So have your say on what's happened tonight. But here is Stephen Kenny's breaking statement. I am immensely proud to have served as Republic of Ireland manager, and it has been the ultimate honour to manage my country. I want to thank all of the players who have represented Ireland during my tenure for their exceptional attitude and high level of professionalism. It has really been special to have been an integral part of the journey on the international stage. I have had the privilege of overseeing the evolution of the squad for the past 3 years, and I am genuinely excited about the future of this group of players and look forward to seeing them mature and fulfill their collective potential. I want to acknowledge the immense contribution of Keith Andrews, John O'Shea, Dean Kiley, Stephen Rice, Damien Doyle, and all of the backroom team, and thank them for their exceptional work and work ethic and professionalism, and everybody working at all levels of the FAI for the continued support and cooperation. Some special words of gratitude to the Irish football supporters. It has been one of my great privileges in life to witness the bond between this team and the supporters, and all the kind words of encouragement I received in stadiums, clubhouses, on the streets, and in airports, home and abroad. On behalf of the team, I thank you all for your incredible support right through to the end. My commitment to Irish football remains resolute, and I look forward to supporting the team and wishing them every success. Stephen Kenny. Oh, a bit of a mouthful there. You are. Martin, I'm going to ask you first. By the way, I see your comments coming in there, guys. Keep them coming in. I want to hear from you. Actually, hold on. Wait, lads, we need to make it official. Hold on. There you go.
Oh,
it's in there now. Proper official, lads. We mean business tonight. Martin's got his light off. Nick has his background blurred out. This is proper sports journalism here. And as always, have your say and get involved. Martin, hard to argue with the decision, and probably even less hard. That doesn't make any sense. Probably even less harder to argue the timing of the decision. This is the right call, and they're making it at the right time. It was due to be made next week after the board meeting, but they've basically put the man out of his misery, haven't they?
Yeah, look, my light is off, Dave, because of just to honour the passing, the moving on of Stephen Kenny from Ireland.
Bastard. You're
it's
a
bit
bastard,
nasty
man.
doing that. No, honestly, I it's not a good. It's a sad day for Irish football in many respects. The man had his dream job. He sadly wasn't able to fulfill his dream, but many of us would love to step into that role and have a go at it. But I'm really pleased that the FAI haven't dragged this out to next week. I think that's the decent thing to do by him. I think, look, it was the worst kept secret in football, wasn't it? This was going to happen, and it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm glad they've moved it quickly on it. They must. I hope now the fact they've actually in their little statement there have said they're looking to get someone in for March gives me hope that they're going to have the right person. They've actually got the right person in mind, and they've
Are we lined up?
Is already and lined up. But it is a sad day, and I think in a way that many of us who wanted to see change in Irish football, I think Stephen Kenny did bring that in many ways, and he's, I know he's done his statement and he's, talking about players he's brought through and the legacy and things like that, and I know that's often disputed by many fans and even our listeners on here as well, and I kind of take them.
Well, they're going to have to say,
but he's been an absolute gentleman to deal with us as supporters clubs. And I know it's not about that, but you want your manager engaging with the supporters and appreciating them. It's nice to see that mentioned in there as well. And it's just not worked out for him. And
no.
I think, it just showed last night. It was heartbreaking in a way watching an Irish manager so emotional when he's talking on the press afterwards. And we've seen all this, we've commented about his elocution in a way, I suppose, so how he communicates and the weaknesses there. And I think that's what they have to get right going forward as well. It wasn't great. But I think he just gets carried away with the passion of it. And I can see why, we just had a quick chat there off air, and I can see why perhaps these modern day professional players, how he wasn't maybe able to motivate them, because you can't show them any weakness like that. No. And they're not going to really be appealed to by passion, because you can just see a lot of them are absolute selfish, and they're just thinking about number one.
On that, Shane Duffy has released on Instagram there. He says, "Thanks, boss. Thank you for everything you have done for me personally and our country. The inside circle will see how much you meant to us and the group. To the staff, thank you for everything. We move forward to the next challenge and keep fighting." Nick, I know you're not going to argue with the decision by the FAI, but the timing of the decision, do you think is about right?
I think so. I mean, you can't psychologically put someone through that, can you? Waiting a week to know if their job is secure or not. I think he was probably well aware before last night that something was in the pipeline, and I think he would have been well aware before the public were made aware as well. I mean, look, there were ample opportunities to get rid of Stephen Kenny. I think, really morally the best thing to do would have probably been to get rid of him in the September window. I mean, whether the FAI could afford to do that or not, I don't know. I think that was a massive factor. But, it was an uncomfortable watch last night. It was an uncomfortable watch in Holland. Watching him in his pre-match and post-matches is always a difficult thing to kind of sit through. But, when he broke down last night, talking to Tony O'Donoghue, it was someone who'd been kind of put through the ringer. You have to feel for him. At the end of the day, it's elite professional sport. And it's very cutthroat. It's an emotional thing, and I don't think he was remotely able for the emotional side of it. But, I don't think it was right of the FAI to put him through that. I mean, and even the result last night, the performance last night, it really did epitomise and reflect the kind of mood of Stephen Kenny. I think the whole James McLean thing was unusual. It was nice. It maybe put a different slant on the game, but I mean, you see James McLean going around taking selfies and getting a guard of honor, and then you see Stephen Kenny crying in a post-match interview. So I think they really the only thing I can think of is finances, that they couldn't afford to actually remove him. But I think there were several times Stephen Kenny could have lost his job, and they've they tortured the guy. Essentially, it's very difficult for him. It was never going to be easy when he was going to leave, but it got to an uncomfortable stage where he shouldn't be in front of 26,000 fans getting booed. I'll put it that way.
No, I mean that was an interesting one last night. Actually, 26,517 fans showed up. I was one of them. Neither you were there, but anyway, I was there paying homage to Stephen Kenny, and it was nice to see. He did his walk around. Hold on, let me just take the banner off there. He did his walk around there. Do you like the little collage I've done?
Very nice.
Very professional, yeah.
Don't want to use the footage. And you see him just walking around there. That is him on a guard of honor. And it was a very polite clap. There were boos. You wouldn't have seen this, but there were boos when his name comes up when he played I think it's the Alan Parsons Project or something like that, we call it. And, they play the music and his name comes. And the manager is Stephen Kenny. There's like, oh, like, oh.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
happened a few times, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, 26,000 fans, 26,517, but 15,000 fans stayed at home because there was over 41,000 tickets sold for. So 15,000 fans basically voted, pardon me, with their feet last night. And who could blame them? I mean, it was a dreadful game of football. I wrote my article there. It's on the Green Machine. It's on the Lansdowne Road Facebook page. It was a tepid game of football, wasn't it? It was a damp squib, not squid, a damp squib of a game. Nobody really cared. The players didn't want to get injured, and you know, James McLean was out afterwards. I was actually doing the post match, and this is what happened to me. Literally, as I finished the post match review. Literally, if you're listening, basically, yes, they turned the lights off, and I had to use my phone. I had to use the torch of my phone to actually pack my stuff. And hope I didn't leave anything there. But let's have a look anyway. Stephen Kenny's record in charge. It does make for grim reading. There's a graphic here from the Irish Times. Let me just take the slide down the bottom off there. His win ratio is 27.5%. He won 11, drew 12, and he lost 17. Pretty grim stuff there. I argued, lads, I'm going to put it out to whoever wants to answer it. I argued that he has left Irish football in a better state than how Martin O'Neill left it in 2018. Agree or grumble?
Well, definitely Martin O'Neill. You could argue Mick McCarthy as well, because I don't think that I think things were going spiraling even more under Mick, unfortunately. The thing I say, Dave, and not to plug it, but I've a 2-part article coming out on the website. One of the articles has just gone out there, and it's these kind of perceived ideas that Stephen Kenny's left us in a better place. I mean, I hand over heart feel that any modern day manager that was prepared to play a modern style of football would have had us passing the ball around. I don't think that is down to Stephen Kenny necessarily. I think whoever came in would have done that. I think any manager that came in would have played the young players that are coming through, because it's not like Stephen Kenny played teenagers when they hadn't made their first team debut. Stephen Kenny was picking these teenagers when they were first team players with their clubs. And as we know, lads, our player pool has been limited for some time now. And this golden generation that we talk about, now it's a golden generation in the context of Ireland, but we've been aware of a lot of these lads. We've been aware of Adam Ida, Troy Parrott, Nathan Collins, well before Stephen Kenny was involved with the FAI. And I think the upward trajectory of these players was not necessarily as a result of Stephen Kenny, but as a result of their hard work, their efforts, and the fact that they were given an opportunity at club level. So yes, he had to cap them. If a Sam Allardyce or a Chris Hughton got the job after Mick McCarthy, would they have capped these players? Maybe not as many as Kenny did, but I do think that was the pool that was available. And I do think that any manager that came in, maybe bar the 2 lads I mentioned there, would have played a passing game of football. So has he changed things? Yes, but I think any manager worth their salt would have changed things, Dave.
Okay. You at home watching, do you think Martin O'Neill has left Irish football? Stephen Kenny's left Irish football in a better state than he found it, and certainly better than Martin O'Neill, because Martin O'Neill is due on TalkSport this week, so it's going to be interesting to hear what he says. He'll be on White and Jordan. Martin, do you think he's left it in a better state than Martin O'Neill did in 2018?
I think he has, from the perspective that he was more engaged with the other teams and at development level. He referenced that, didn't he? That he's it's big cohesion, working with the under-15s upwards, under-19s, 21s, obviously bringing through them players and stuff, how they want to play, that idea of all working together. I think he did do a lot more. We certainly give us the narrative that they were doing a lot more coaching and having these meetings every week together and on which way they wanted to kind of drive the kind of association forward. Certainly we heard that more than we did under Martin O'Neill. I mean, anyone listening to the show tonight, and maybe done a sweepstake when I was going to mention Callum O'Dowda. Here you go. This is it. But you got to think Callum O'Dowda got brought in, didn't he, by O'Neill after seeing him with the under-21s just before the Euros in 2016. And we didn't bring many others in, Jack Byrne, of course, as well. But, we didn't, Martin O'Neill, I just never had that sense of engagement with the underage setup. Whereas we knew Stephen Kenny coming in, that we were promised. Well, the idea was that he was going to play this kind of expansive football, and the years was a key thing, wasn't it, Nick? Where he said, we haven't had certain players from certain years coming through. There was a massive gap, and he said that's not right. There's something wrong with that. So he has fixed that. So I think not just solely him doing that, but I think another manager could have come in instead of Stephen Kenny and not bothered looking at that and just gone, well, I'm going to play with what I've got here and look for the granny rule and things like that. Whereas I think he actually did go out and consciously, whatever way the association did it, he was the senior guy, senior manager at the time, who did look to do that. And I think that is worthy of kind of praise in a sense.
Something I would say, sorry, Dave, something I would say about Kenny is Martin O'Neill fell out with players. Giovanni Trapattoni fell out with a huge amount of players. There was a lot of kind of rumors around Michael Obafemi, wasn't there? Whether Kenny fancied him or not, because I think there was a little bit of stuff with the 21s, and Kenny was very swift to say, I've no issues with Michael. Everyone's available to me. So the Sammy Smodics thing, look, that came a little bit later. I don't think, I think we'll be making do without Sammy Smodics, but he didn't fall out with players. And that was a feature of several campaigns, even going back to Brian Kerr. Brian Kerr had issues with certain players. Mick McCarthy had an issue with one of his former captains. Can't quite remember his name.
Yeah,
but that is one thing I would give Kenny. Has he left us in a better place?
I think he has.
He has. But I actually think a number of managers could have come in and left us in a better place. Results wise, we are far worse off. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The coefficient, I think. There are going to be issues there. I think he made us very predictable to play against. I think although we played nicer football on the eye, I think there was still an existing rigidness, a predictability. There's no fear of teams going to Dublin.
But, under him.
Yeah.
But look, you got to remember now. People are saying, "Oh, he set us back 10 years." You said, "No, that's nonsense, right?" That is.
I don't think so. Yeah.
No, it's absolute nonsense. Oh, what will happen is they'll get a coach in. We'll talk about who, what next, or who next, more accurately. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. And then we're going to get your comments, guys. By the way, I do see them coming in. Please keep them coming. We are going to get to that, and we're going to concentrate a fair bit on your comments of this show, because we are the voice of the fans. We let you guys speak sometimes. But going back to my point, they're going to get a guy. He's going to come in, and then basically they'll shake it off. They'll do a Taylor Swift. They will shake off whatever rust, whatever apathy the team had. And the team, by the way, you hear the lads coming out and saying, you're going to hear this now. Matt Doherty, guarantee you, we had to take the blame for the manager. Guarantee you he's going to say that. Well, I think their performance showed on the pitch, the effort of certain players showed on the pitch that they'd fallen out of love with the man. They knew that it was over, and they played like it last night. Absolutely zero exception to that. But they're going to get another guy in. He's going to come in. He's going to shake the whole thing up, and then they'll forget about Stephen Kenny. That's how it is. That's how teams work. They'll actually go to their clubs and forget about Stephen Kenny, and then whoever comes in will get them together, and they'll go off and play. So I wouldn't worry too much about him making us predictable and all that for the next manager. There's a lot of problems there, but you got to remember it's 2018, and anyone out there who wants to argue the fact that this is the worst period of Irish football. In 2018, under Martin O'Neill, we went to our worst position ever in the rankings. 70th, by the way. That was in 2014. 70th.
That was yeah. Well, a lot of that was Trapattoni's doing. I think O'Neill was only in charge for a couple of games at that stage, but I think another thing, Dave, just on that with the players and their reaction, and there will be a lot of players coming out positively. Kevin Doyle. And there's been mixed reviews on Kevin Doyle's performance on RTE last night. I thought he was excellent, to be honest, and very, very factual and very to the point. But Kevin Doyle made the point of, that there didn't seem to be kind of an authoritarian feel to Kenny, and that we spoke Dave the other night about Matt Doherty getting the captaincy, and we kind of said, look, years of mediocre performances, and all of a sudden he's given the captaincy. But Doyle made a very good point that we've conceded so many goals from long range. He said a lot of managers would, point this out and bollock the player who turned their back to allow the goal, or maybe bollock the goalkeeper about their position or whatever. And he said the same mistake kept happening again and again and again. So clearly the message wasn't going through. And I think, look, we're not in the changing room, lads. We're Martin, you've been around the team, obviously around the hotel, and you've been around the camp and stuff, so you might have a better idea. And I know it's a very happy camp by the sounds of things, but it wasn't really a productive camp. You know, the results kind of speak for themselves. And I think when you have a manager who's willing to address issues and willing to make the hard calls, willing to drop players, willing to maybe not show that over loyalty to players, it's kind of for the greater good. But of course the players are going to praise them, because it did sound like it was a little bit too easy on them, you know, considering they weren't you know, that they weren't getting much out of it. You know, I think that makes sense, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I didn't think that was one of the issues under Stephen Kenny's tenure, Martin, that Nick's internet's gone there. But I do think that was one of the issues, wasn't it? That, you know, poor performances weren't punished. They were literally, you know, there was Matt Doherty, one of the poorest performances of the entire tenure, and he's given the captaincy. Just little things like that. Like, it just didn't, you know, I think with footballers, if you tend to give them an inch, they'll take 10 miles. It just seems to be that sort of.
Yeah, I think the camp was too nice in a way that, you know, you think of, we all thought Shane Duffy's end was there with the Republic of Ireland, and then Shane Duffy's brought back into camp and he's made captain as well. There's these strange decisions that were made, and it was like keeping those senior pros on side seemed to be a big thing for him. I mean, we're saying he's never fell out public. Well, I think he probably has fallen out with players, but not really publicly. Like, there's been no like bitterness or anything. Yeah, the Shane Long thing came after. I mean, Darren Randolph, there was a little bit around that time, his end. But you've got to remember, they're senior pros, and it's always hard that when they're ended up with their career with Ireland, you know, they weren't doing anything with their clubs. He has to move them on. Even Jeff Hendrick, you're looking at that. Robbie Brady, he's handled that situation quite well as well. Kept him on side, called him up, things like that. I think, you know, it is just a shame how I don't think that will come out too much. I think we will obviously learn a lot more.
Yeah.
But I think because I think he's so nice and decent, I don't think you'll get too much like slagging him or anything, which I think is the right thing.
Yeah,
but you'll just get you'll get a fair thing from the players.
He got a very polite send off last night. I was glad to see it.
The only thing I'd say, Dave, as well, just on that, I think where we do know really, I think I'm still not comfortable with the James McLean thing. I think that showed the marker. It was all very respectful and things, but James McLean, all right, 103 caps, legend, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that was right. That he revealed that he was going to be having his last game in November, before the squad was announced that time, and then they've had to be pushed together and stuff. And you can see it's all very nicey and amicable, and you can see how emotional Stephen Kenny was. He's just such a nice guy, like, with him. But I didn't think that was right with James McLean, how that worked, really.
I thought it was outrageous, lads. I thought it was an unusual arrangement. We spoke about this. It's not probably not an argument for tonight, but we spoke about all the greats who've represented Ireland, and none of them got basically a day out like that for the 100 cap, and then a send-off match. And I was just
on their own terms. They never got to dictate it, did they, Nick? That's the thing. They never got to dictate. I'm going to be in the squad and I'm having a farewell.
It didn't sit well with me. And as I said, like, look, very popular player. Look, his post-match interview was very classy. He was very upbeat when really it wasn't. Look, it's all well and good celebrating an individual, but at the end of the day, he's part of a team, and that team should not be upbeat. I know, and it didn't sit well with me. It didn't sit well with me. The whole McLean
it was. Look, I love James McLean, but I did think it was very strange. All of it was very strange. I actually felt it was very. Felt the manager was almost cuckolded a little bit. I think by the players.
That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Amsterdam. No, I do think they were, because he was sitting next to him, and he's sitting next to the manager, and you know, when the manager went on about, when we lost in Amsterdam, it wasn't 4-1 in Wales, blah, blah, blah. And you can see, you know, James McLean was just kind of sitting there like that. He's going, what's he on about? And then he came out and made the comment, well, it's my own personal decision. The manager's sitting next to him. He said, I'm still the best man for the job.
Yeah.
And the manager's sitting next to him. The man who makes that decision is sitting next to him. And then he goes, got my own personal reasons. And then goes off and has an interview with Tony O'Donoghue later on, kind of saying, well, you know, the manager didn't respect me, but, you know, I've been let out. I was kept out of all these squads, and then basically announced I'm quitting in November, forcing the FA and almost forcing the manager's hand. Well, you better pick me. You better pick me. It doesn't matter if I'm terrible for my club. You're going to pick me. And before he was drafted in for the Dutch game, He was going to join up the club anyway because he was always going to start his last game.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a fucking testimonial as well, you know. And as I said, look,
Well,
Martin, you've met McLean a couple of times, and look, he does. I know I might slag him off, but I know he seems a decent lad in many ways. But you know, there's been bigger legends, there's been better players, there's been people deserving of long goodbyes and successful goodbyes, and they didn't get it. That's kind of my issue, and I think a lot of it was not necessarily for James McLean. But I think a lot of it was to maybe alter the narrative because of what a low ebb things are in at the moment. Like it was a horrendous. It was a horrendous feel last night. It was horrendous watching Stephen Kenny after the game last night, and then all of a sudden James McLean's on, full of smiles and giggles and stuff, which is fine for him. But you know, his team, his country, what he represents, isn't in a good place.
Here's a question: why wasn't he given the armband?
Well, that as well was wrong. Yeah.
I know, like, as yes, and one-sided we are kind of having a little go at James McLean, but I mean, sure, you give him the armband, you go all in. Was that because
Ireland before? Well, like he captained Ireland in a competitive in his 100 cap, like it's unusual, and the you know the. I understand this whole thing of like teams have 4 or 5 captains, but at the end of the day, sometimes too many chefs can ruin the broth, can't they? And I mean, he's had John Egan and Shane Duffy captain the team. Seamus Coleman is the team captain, and he still is unless he retires or whatever. But Duffy and Egan will be sharing the pitch, and they both wear the armband. And McLean was wearing the armband. Doherty the other day, it was strange him wearing the armband. So it almost it's a little criticism, I think, of Stephen Kenny that maybe he what's the word I'm looking for? Devalued the armband a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's all.
I wouldn't be surprised if I would not be surprised if the players decided that amongst themselves. I honestly wouldn't. And if you think about this, I think what you said earlier, you know, I think he's been hanging on, hasn't he, since September. They didn't get rid of him in September because the shit show with the women. Let's be honest, that was it. They didn't want to have 2 managers going through that whole rubbish then. So that saved him. He's been the interim manager since September. It was always going to end. Like they gave him, he thought he had his last chance with that Greece game at home, and they failed him there, and that was it then. So
right, so that's Stephen Kenny. We're going to draw a line, lads. We're coming up to the half-an-hour mark, so we want to spend maybe the next half an hour getting the comments from the guys at home. Keep them coming in, but before we do that, I just want to ask very quickly, Nick, you first. Who do you want in? Who do you think will get in?
I would like Hervé Renard in.
Right.
I think just based on the fact that he's managed a number, he's international experience and he's maximized limited teams. And that's what we need. We need a manager who has international experience and can maximize what we have at the moment. We've the bones of a very good team. Look at Evan Ferguson. Look at Andy Moore making his debut last night. Nathan Collins hasn't been great under Stephen Kenny, but I think he's a fantastic player. I think we've some excellent players at our disposal. And
Who do you think will come in?
Who do I think will come in? I actually think it's going to be a bit of an unknown. If you're to put me on the spot, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Bruce got the job.
Steve Bruce? Martin, who do you want in? Who do you think will get in?
I would like to see Stephen Carsley basically get it. Lee Carsley.
And who do you think will get it?
But I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Chris Hughton.
Chris Hughton. Me, very quickly, lads, and then we'll move on to the comments. I think I would like to see either Lee Carsley get it or Anthony Barry get it, because I think there's going to have to be somebody to take. There's going to be bold. They're going to have to take a chance on. Anthony Barry, I think I explained this in the group earlier on. Basically, get him in, have his successor next to him already, because he's going to be gone in the next 3-5 years, or 2 to 3 years if he's successful. Get the successor in and continue that way. But what I think will happen is I think they'll get Mick McCarthy in. I really think they will. I think it was no coincidence that he was on Irish telly.
That is left field. That is left field.
I'm telling you now, the FAI and these associations, you got Jonathan Hill, and I wrote my article that he is also staring to the precipice. You want to read his notes. His notes were hilarious last night, thanking everybody. Like, please, you know, I'm sorry. You know, everyone's brilliant. But anyway, you know, he's going to think, shit, I need to get the pressure off me. I need a feel-good moment, because, you know, it is an adult. It's not the worst place Irish football's been in. If we really look at it, we get the emotion out of it. So I think they're going to go for somebody like Mick McCarthy. And I think, I don't want him, but I think a lot of people would want Mick McCarthy. A lot of people want Roy Keane, but let's be honest, they wouldn't be able to control him. Could you imagine Mark Canham going into Roy Keane? He'd chew him for breakfast. But anyway, what do you guys out there watching in YouTube and Facebook Land? We're going to get to your comments now. Who do you think will get in? Who do you want in? Very simple. Right, lads, are we ready for the comments?
Yeah, just before we go into that, Steve Bruce did say during this week that he is interested in the job, but he was being respectful that there's a manager actually in the role, but it's something he is looking to get into international football.
Fair.
So that is a runner now, and this will get more legs as we go along. And I think it's going to be exciting for Irish football is you will have a lot of people putting their hats in the ring for this. I think it's an attractive job.
It's a good job. I think it's a good job. Just very quickly there, actually, as a few moments ago on Paddy Power, Neil Lennon is 9-4 favourite. Roy Keane 4-1 second favourite. I know, right? Lee Carsley 5-1. Steve Bruce 11-2, and Sam Allardyce 9-1. And then you go much further afloat. My pick, Mick McCarthy, is 33-1. Just to let you know, and Damien Duff 25-1. Right, lads, let's get into the comments. Going to dedicate the rest of the program to you, the fans out there who've been brilliant, actually supporting us over this international window. So thank you very much again. Genuinely means the world to me, and the lads, I suppose. Right, Graham on YouTube. Well, he's in a bashful mood. Graham told you it would be announced today, Dave, last night. No few heads. Good man, Graham. You did. So go on, Graham. Who's going to get it now? Since you're the man in the know, tell us. Daryl O'Connor, how you doing, Daryl, on YouTube? Well, lads, as a Kenny Backer and lover from the start, you are, who recognised change was needed. It's like knowing someone is going to die, then they die, and it's emotional. Thank you for the days, Kenny. Oh, I hope you're okay, Daryl. Daniel Granahan. Glad it happened now rather than 2 weeks later and delaying the inevitable. Yeah, I think that's fair, Daniel. We're all in agreement there. Put the man out of his misery. Daryl, again, it was so refreshing having a homegrown and home-based manager who the supporters could really relate to. If only it could have worked out, how special would that have been? Carsley and now. So Daryl wants Carsley. And do you agree at home? Graham, he nearly did die on the job in Sweden. It was nice to see a homegrown manager take on the whole role of Irish football, and like some that just focus on results. History will treat them well. I think very quickly there, lads, you got the rock star managers, O'Neill and Trapattoni, didn't really care, pay me. But this is a guy, isn't he? He really, he threw himself probably too much into all facets of Irish football. He really cared about this job, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think as well, it was impacting his health, as you just said there. Like, he had the problem in Sweden, you remember
pacemaker,
that time,
didn't he? Yeah.
And I think it has impacted his health, and I really hope he gets a good break now. I think he'll reflect a lot more honestly on his tenure away from it. He'll be able to look back in and go, actually, this and that didn't work, and God, what did I say there and stuff. I mean, even his press notes with the program last night were very emotional, but he's an emotional, passionate man, and like we said, he's got the dream job, and it's gone away from him now. But I wish him all the best. He's a really decent guy.
Ambition takes you to dark places.
That's it.
What you said, and none darker than the last year. Bill at Irish Football Blog. Dave, the only one appropriately wearing black for his funeral for Kenny.
Hello.
Well, you were actually in black. You were in darkness, weren't you, man?
I was very emotional.
He was. Poor Bill. Bill, I hope you're all right, sweetheart. Wheeler 1, 2, 3. Hopefully clean sweep with the backroom team as well, especially Andrews. Hopefully John O'Shea stays on board. Yeah, no mention there yet of the backroom staff who will stay on, but we'll see. We'll see that over the next couple of weeks. Graham reckons that he says Carsley is wrapped up. Now, Graham, you did say you're a man in the know, so are you trying to tell us something there? Interesting. Daryl O'Connor, any chance of Jonathan Hill going also? Chance to be a fine thing. Irish Football Blog. Nick, why aren't you also wearing black for the funeral of Kenny? He's not happy with you. He's actually wearing white.
With me.
No, he's wearing white.
It's actually a beige, more of a beige, Dave.
Well, there you go. Graham, need them there for Xmas to push season tickets. They know this. That's Lee Carsley, says Graham. Dave McGuinness, how you doing, David? A dignified few words, to be fair. I've no doubt in his commitment to Irish football. Brilliant by the FAI to bring this to a head swiftly. It's in all parties' interest, and Stephen's mental health in particular. Very true. Yeah, he did look a broken man, didn't he, in RTE? Daryl O'Connor, when he was walking to the singing section after last night, there was some booze and stupid. Kenny's on the dole chance, but then he waited and got a positive reception he deserves. Jesus. Why would you regale on that? Daryl O'Connor, and also got one last watching Stephen Kenny putting on a show chant. One of my favorites. Oh, Daryl, bless you. Wheeler123. See, Steve Bruce came out and said he's available. I pray the FAI go nowhere near him. Very quickly, lads. Nick, would you have Steve Bruce?
I'd have Steve Bruce with a decent coaching ticket, but I don't know. Like again, it'd be a similar situation around or McCarthy coming back into the job. I think as I said, we need someone. Bottom line, lads, we need someone with international experience who can get the best out of a limited team. Hervé Renard.
Hervé Renard. What about you, Mark? Would you have Steve Bruce? Would you? Man United legend. You know, you love your tribalism, don't you?
No, I wouldn't. No. Because he could probably go off to Northern Ireland after a while, like his son.
Oh, well, now they're flying now. They got a win over Denmark, so there you go. It's all right. All's right with the world up in the north. Glenn Forbes, would you consider chat GPTing your CVs and throwing your hats in the ring? Maybe 3 co-managers are better than one. I think Nick and I would probably be in the job together for a week and we end up strangling each other. What do you reckon?
I'd be a great Ireland manager.
We'd be on the ground, rolling around on the ground. You'd be just standing there.
It would just be a stepping stone for Martin to get the England job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably very true. Oh, dear.
Moving on. Dave McGuinness. Well said, Martin. His articulation was poor and communication is so important. Yeah, his interviews are difficult to watch. Bless him. David Curdy, how you doing, David? Kenny Fast Track, Bazunu, Collins, Ferguson, Ogbeni. Good man. Before they were established, agree with Nick that any decent manager would have done the same. But I worry next manager might overlook our use. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll be allowed to, if I'm honest with you, David. I think, Canham, Mr. Canham, he's been conspicuous by his silence, actually. We haven't heard much from our technical director, but there you go, or our CEO. But anyway, Glenn Forrest, whatever manager wants to bring back the Euro 88, bring back the Euro 88 crest on for them, absolutely, and not that bastardized version that Nick likes to wear. Cheap Heat Productions podcast. Is that a wrestling podcast, by the way? Cheap Heat Productions podcast. What about him getting a pay rise during his tenure? Unreal. Well,
that's football.
That is football, to be fair. Look, I wasn't, it hasn't worked out. Of course it hasn't. The right decision's been made. But it did look like he turned the corner. And when he got the extension, it was at the end of the World Cup campaign. It looked like it's dropped. And unfortunately, the thing that dropped wasn't a penny, but the ball. And we ended up where we're at. Graham Farrell, how you doing, Graham? You weren't there as a fan, Dahi. You were there as a journalist. Very true, Graham. But the voice of the fans as a journalist. So that's technically a fan and a journalist.
Voice of the fans or the voice of Dan? Oh, no, he doesn't talk to you. Sorry.
No, Dan doesn't speak to me. Oh, God. I was there at Connor. If you're watching, Connor, how you doing? Yeah. He was when he walked past, I was like, there's your mate, Connor. There's your mate. You say hello to him, asking for a selfie. Oh, we probably shouldn't be saying this on the air. Glenn Forbes, you sound a little better than yesterday, Dave. Where can we mail you a care pack of Lemsip, Vicks, and Bovril? A few bags of Charlie, Glenn. No. No, just on the Lemsip, thankfully, and then my actual job, trying to give me stupid hours. I'm like, nah. I've been 6th of September, not happening. But thank you, Glenn, for your concern. Sandra Keogh, how you doing, Sandra? Sounds a bit messed up, lads. There's an echo. Oh, sorry about that. That was half an hour ago. Sandra, if you're still watching, I'm not sure if that's still the case, guys. Do let us know if there's any issues with our sound. We will try to fix that. Pat Roach, how you doing, Pat? Serious one here, lads. Big Sam, why not? Remember, this guy was England manager for a game, albeit for a very short time. But if he hadn't have been caught out, he would have been England manager for that campaign. I don't think we could afford him.
I think with those kind of appointments, lads, your Allardyces, your Hutons, your Bruces, it would be very, very functional football. Like that. Like that's the thing. But what I'd worry about is I could imagine Sam Allardyce coming in and playing lads out of position and trying to nullify other teams without creating many chances. And that's what Stephen Kenny was trying to move away from, wasn't it? Like he was trying to move away from what Trapattoni had encouraged, what O'Neill had encouraged. It got results, but as a result, like it wasn't easy on the eye. It ended up becoming very, very destructive, you know. And on top of that, lads, as well, like obviously there wasn't younger players coming through.
Okay, so no to Big Sam. Daglin P.O. Halplin. I hope I'm saying that correct. Daglin. Jason McLean and Roy Keane for coach. Could you imagine it? The Bowron and the cricket. Oh no, the Bowron and the Hurley would be alive and well in the dressing room there. Adrian King. The football was dire, but behind it all, I saw a burned out man in that last interview. Yeah, he was burnt out, wasn't he? He just looked. Obviously, it was health issues. I remember when I came out, they didn't come out. They weren't public. But those in certain circles, we knew about Stephen Kenny's heart condition when he was under 21's manager. Until he came out and admitted it. I was always very worried. You know, I always genuinely had this horrible feeling that he would actually drop on the sideline because the stress that man must have been under, watching his dream job slip away. And I know he's well paid, but you know, football's a bit deeper than that, isn't it? Especially when it's a guy that really, really cares about the sport in this country and cares about his country as well. So, yeah, I just hope now he gets a good rest. There'll be he'll have plenty of jobs in the League of Ireland. He'll be fine. Stephen Ring, 100% agree. Dave, good man, Stephen. What's that about? He left the team in a much better place than O'Neill. Yes, he did. Don't forget, anyone who doubts that, Cyrus Christie, centre midfield, told an hour before the game against Northern Ireland. Cyrus Christie, fucking midfield. After we lost Declan Rice, Glenn Whelan was retired, replaced by Cyrus Christie. So there you go. Graham, 100% agree. He has left the squad in a better place. Good man, Graham. I see that, lads. They're all my fans, my acolytes are all agreeing with me there. Jimmy Shell, Roy Keane, Jason McIntyre, double header for managers and to sell their books. Could you imagine that? That'd be more argumentative than Nick and myself. Could you imagine it? Daryl O'Connor. For me, yes, Kenny has left the team in a better state. Good man, Daryl. And then when he got it, he's gone because of results. But for me, it's in better state for the future. Managed to inherit it. I think, Martin, you said before, didn't you, that you were one of the first ones to say this, that he will not enjoy, there's a very good chance he will not enjoy the fruits of his labour.
What a line.
You didn't actually say that.
My fellow Englishman, William Shakespeare, would have been proud of that.
No, you didn't say that. That was a sentiment. I just sexed it up for you. So, yeah.
I'm going to take credit for that, though.
Typical English, stealing everything from an Irishman. Well, yes, you were the first one to say it. Graham, he capped players and gave international exposure, thus putting them in shop windows. Look at Bazunu as a prime example. That's very true, you know. And that's why I never understood certain players like Stephen Ireland that didn't want to play for Ireland. You think, well, if you get injured for your city, which he did, and you can't get back in, and you're not playing international football, you've no other avenue to show the manager what you can do other than training. So it's always good. If you can do it international level, a lot of managers will go, maybe I need to give him a go. Just saying. Paul Kearney, has he really left Ireland in a better place? The FIFA rankings suggest otherwise. Rankings-wise, okay, fair enough. But as we said there, Paul, you know, look at the players he's got. We have a spine of a very good side there. The only weak spot we have is in the centre, is the midfield area. That is a problem area. And certain players, like you'd argue, like Gavin Kilkenny, who thought we were coming through, hasn't really gone anywhere, sadly. Hasn't really moved at club level. And Josh Cullen playing in the Premier League. Sorry, Martin, but he's not up to it. Malumbi's gone backwards. Jason Knight is the only real shining light in that midfield. But I think there's a good spine there. Good goalie, couple of good defenders. Evan Ferguson up top. Got a Benny in there. I think it's a good side. And it's a lot better than the team we had in 2018.
I think, Dave, as well, like, I mean, the thing with, say, Evan Ferguson, for example, like, Stephen Kenny might have capped Evan Ferguson and capped all these players, but he didn't build a team around Ferguson, or he didn't build a team around these key players. And I think that's one of his failings when we look back at things. We will say, yes, he blooded these lads, but he didn't maximize them. He didn't get the best out of them as a unit. He didn't build his team around the best players. So I think that's something that will kind of be reflected as time goes on.
Do you not think, though, and you're right what you're saying, but do you not think though that the fixtures maybe played a massive part in that? Because I mean, when you're playing a team like France, you're always going to be on the back foot.
Absolutely, David. That's what the friendly for. That's where the Nations League was for. That's where that Malta game we keep coming back to it was for. So he'd ample opportunities.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Doyle again. I know I'll come back to him, but he said last night that Kenny's biggest regret will be that he didn't have a team. As so far that he never settled on a team. He didn't really know what his starting 11 was. I disagree with it slightly because I think there was kind of a backbone of a team, but then you would have had, say, Jason Knight never really played in the same position, did he? Like you would have had Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty alternating. Yeah, you didn't really have a consistent centre half pairing. The midfield chopped and changed a lot. So that became an issue, and that's where friendlies, that's where the Nations League is there to refine these things. Like you can't be throwing Liam Scales into a must-win game.
No, I hear you.
Things like that.
I know, but Ferguson only came into squad though, didn't he? In that November program, I believe, last year, the much maligned November program. What I'm trying to say to you is, he's in the under-21s. He brings him into the senior squad. And the only fixtures he has are really the Gibraltar games, the Latvia game. It was Latvia. And you'd like to think he would have done better against Greece. I'm not even sure. There was also a couple of games he wasn't available for. So, yes, I know you're on about he didn't get to build a team around Evan Ferguson, but I don't think he was able to this year. Now, listen, I'm with you in the whole November thing last year. He balls that up royally, and we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll be doing another podcast in a while talking about that. But we'll move it on. Gavin Byrne. What about Mark Kennedy? He's doing. Has he just left his job?
Just left Lincoln. Yeah.
Where Kenny's linked.
I think he'll be in the mix, lads. He wouldn't be for me, but I think he'll be in the mix.
He's way down the betting order. But there you go. Graham Farrell.
Wouldn't it be brilliant? Wouldn't it be great though if Mark Kennedy came in, right? And brought Mick in as like kind of a senior person like Bobby
babysitter.
Robson, and then Mick ended up babysitting his kids. That would be so funny. That would be so cool.
Grandad McCarthy. Oh, Nick's gone there. His Wi-Fi was sort of a little bit, but we're going to continue on there. Nick will join us when he can. Graham Farrell, yes, he definitely did, but it wasn't hard after Dumb and Dumber left. This is leaving the team in a better position after Keane. Bad cop and bad cop. Harsher Mick, as he got us to a playoff. Don't forget the coaching at underage level with Ireland, as the 15s, 17s, and 90s have qualified for a lot of tournaments. O'Neill and Keane Ryan was back to the Charlton era. Stick to what they saw. Fuck the youth levels. Just a correction on that one, Graham. Mick didn't get us to playoff. That playoff was actually somehow through our Nations League campaign, the one we got relegated from, because it was 3 teams, Denmark, Wales, and ourselves. We got relegated. And then UEFA changed the rules, and then it became 14 for Pot B. We were back in, and we got a playoff because of that. Mick McCarthy did not get us a playoff. That was because of Nations League and other results went our way. Just want to put it out there. Darrell O'Connor won't go near listening to O'Neill's dribble on TalkSport. That lad has a serious chip in the shoulder. I just checked there. He's actually not. What a week for him not to be available on it, but he's actually
I'm
not.
sure he'll get a snippet out there somewhere.
Oh, I'll be listening to him. He's a bitter man. I can't stand him. Brian Ford, what's your lads' thoughts on Steve Bruce issuing "Come and Get Me, Please" to FAI? Well, we already answered that, Brian. No, just no. Absolutely not. Pat Roach, no international manager can develop young players, etc. It's not possible. They've only got the squads for a couple of weeks or whatever it is per year. The development happens at clubs. Simple. Yeah, okay, fair. But you still got to pick him. Daniel Granahan, at some point, Stephen Kenny football was entertaining, but not winning after playing well numerous of times becomes tiresome. Yeah, I mean, we stopped. We were playing well, not getting the results. Got the results, and then we got neither, really. That's kind of where it went. Stephen Ring, hopefully next week's meeting will result in John Hill being sacked. That'd be a turnaround for the Bucks, wouldn't it now? Glenn Forbes. And if that does happen, we will have an emergency podcast, won't we, lads? Martin, you'll have your light off, and Nick will be wearing.
Probably go and stand outside his house in England to say goodbye.
He lives in Balham.
Oh, maybe not then.
Well, I will. I know where that is. I used to drink in Balham. God, I have some memories there, or lack thereof memories. That's where I watched Ireland beat Estonia 4-0 in the Euro playoff. I was hammered. Glenn Forbes, agree he left him in a better spot. Kenny, the players don't panic when they have the ball, as you seem to at the end of the O'Neill McCarthy period. Don't necessarily agree with Nick. Players like Benny, I think, would have been ignored by other managers, and it was clear he knew about Irish players.
Ogbene actually was in between playing for Nigeria and Ireland, and he declared just when Kenny was getting the job. So I disagree there, because it was, it was kind of a coming game playing away from like he very publicly declared for Ireland. So I know Stephen Kenny definitely would have been aware of him. I have to give Stephen Kenny credit as so far that even Liam Scales, he was talking about Liam Scales before anyone knew about Liam Scales. When he first took over the 21s job, I think Scales was playing in the second division, or in the first division rather, with UCD, and he'd been named, because I never heard of Liam Scales at that stage. I remember looking him up, and he's playing in the Champions League now. So Kenny knew his pool. He certainly knew his pool, but I don't think Ogbene was down to Kenny. Ogbene was on the radar for a long time.
Okay. I think Ogbene, though, is definitely the one for me who's kind of stands out from the Kenny era. And I'm personally glad, as the Green Machine podcast, that he came along, because Dave consistently within the Kenny era has struggled to pronounce his name correctly.
Moving on. Graham, FIFA rankings change and fluctuate. Look at the Wales, Toshack, and Speed Range. They went through a bad 6 years.
On that, lads, Chris Coleman, his dad's from Dublin. He could be an outside bet. International experience. I'm pretty sure he's available, isn't he? I'll look him up really quick.
Yeah, would you really want him?
I wouldn't want him. No, he's free. No. He's free at the moment. He's international experience. He's a good bit of club experience. He's gone to a European Championship. Got Wales to a semi-final with a very good Wales team, by the way. But his dad's from Dublin. Who knows? An outside bet, I think.
No, God, no. Moving on, lads. We've got loads of these comments to get through. Chris Lacey, Kenny is definitely worth holding on to in some capacity upstairs. As for successor, Chris Hughton, for me, common sense approach and well-rounded individual. Lovely man. However, he is in the 60s and he's manager of Ghana, and he is doing a terrible job.
Well, not anymore. Was he not sacked now?
Soon, I think.
He'd
give it up, though. He'd give that up. He's not even getting paid practically out there.
No, but not for me, Chris Hughton. I'm sorry. The football is dreadful under him. Noel Barrett, in competitive games under Kenny, win ratio was more like 20%, and average ranking of those countries was 150. That contributed to Ireland's drop in FIFA rankings. Scratching my head to think that the national team is in a better place now. Just in terms of the players we have available, I think you get a good manager in there, and he's going to... The major thing that we were lacking in that team was aggression, and that comes from a manager. Too passive. We talked about it earlier on the podcast. Not enough bollockings. There wasn't, poor performances were not punished. The players kind of did what they wanted a little bit. You just
no one nasty in that team, though, is there?
Exactly. Maloney, maybe.
Yeah, but there's no one like niggly and kicking up. Like you think back to Keith Andrews as a player.
Yeah, he's
involved and in your face and stuff. Roy would have been obviously the same. Like Seamus does it, but it's not nasty.
But a manager can change that. A manager can change that, and he needs to make them more aggressive. And I think a good coach could do that, and you will fly up the rankings. But anyway, David Ryan, we saw progress. We all saw progress. Problem was, when the time to kick on arrived, it just didn't happen for one reason or another. Generally, the choices Kenny made himself. Yep, David, can't agree with you more. Graham, who cares about Sammy? He's 28. One good campaign in him. Still better than no good campaign, to be fair. Ken Gorey, Irish football's in a better place, but it's down to the likes of Ton Mohan rather than Kenny himself. I mean, they all have a part to play. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying it's down to Kenny's brilliance that we're in a better place. He picked the young players in front of him. And, Nick says any manager could have done that, and he is right, but he did it. He did it. David Curley, if Jacob Ryan keeps playing for Leon, should he start for Ireland? Same with Ebicelli. I think we over-romanticise players from the Championship. I would agree there. I think Kenny was very easy to overlook players that were playing abroad, in my opinion. Josh Cullen didn't get a look in the Ireland team. And I know I've been a critic of him, but he's picking Harahan, and Harahan sitting on the Villa bench. Josh Cullen was actually playing week in, week out for Anderlecht at the time, and he wasn't getting a look in. And Harahan, I think, hadn't played for like 10 games or something. But I remember having a row with Kenny McCoy about that, actually. Graham Farrell, yeah, I totally agree. He was very half-arsed, was Jonathan Hill?
Yeah.
Hill. Irish Jedi. As someone who goes to every game, I don't think fans will accept an old school manager being paid to fly in and throw a team together for qualifiers. Lee Carsley could take us forward. John Unitas. This has been coming with 20 years due to the way the FAI was being run. It's been the worst period in my 40 plus years as a fan. A few decent players, but the rest showing no sign of improving. Depressing. Oh, well, Johnny, thank you. I think this is your first time commenting, Johnny. Welcome. Welcome aboard the Green Machine. Graham, Fessy should have been starting since last November. Doherty has only played 50 minutes in the past year at club level. Yeah, I think whoever comes in next, Doherty out the door. Thank you very much. And Fessy, please. Wheeler 123. The FAI will go for the cheapest manager, even if he's the worst option out there. I wouldn't put it past him. Daniel Granham. Is there any players that Stephen Kenny picked that won't be picked anymore? Matt Doherty.
It's a hard one because it's like we were saying with McLean, we could easily see him coming back into it, and I think because of the consistency of the senior pros. I mean, it was interesting listening to Richard Dunn talking last night with Damien Delaney, and they were saying about that they felt that he'd moved on some of the senior pros too quickly because they offer leadership around the squad and not necessarily to play, but I didn't agree with that though, because I think we had Jeff Hendrick, we had Brady, okay, intermittently Brady, but McLean, obviously senior pro, Coleman, we had them, you know, people had been at tournaments, so I think we had enough of them, so I didn't necessarily agree with that. But I think one thing about the cost of this manager coming in, is Chris Hughton, he's not going to need the money. Like, you can pay him Stephen Kenny rate, and he probably would take the job as the challenge. Like, the international manager for some of the senior people being senior gentlemen being put forward for it, like Steve Bruce, he's not coming in demanding 1.5 million a year. He's just gonna he's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't need the money. Even likes of Pardew's probably still being paid by Newcastle. It's that's it. They've all made their money in football. A lot of the senior people who are being muted, and it's more for the challenge internationally.
You're either going to get a young up-and-coming manager.
Yeah.
For me, Anthony Barry or Lee Carsley, or you're going to get somebody who's kind of, as you say, an older manager in the game. So, but I'd rather go with the young up-and-coming manager. That's just my take on it. Graham Farrell, of course, Doherty's going to back to manager. I'm prospective manager taking over in his right mind. I hope we'll not pick that lad. Glenn Forbes, did any of you feel that the Virgin Media's panel overly critical of Kenny? Yeah, 100%. Damien Delaney had it out for him. Even when I thought, even when it was going wrong for Kenny, you know, everyone keeps mentioning, we lost at home to Luxembourg. That's not acceptable. But no one ever mentioned that we beat Luxembourg comprehensively away 3-0. And when it was going well, they weren't fair and balanced. We've been fair and balanced here. We were looking at it going, give the man a chance. When it was going wrong, give him a chance. And then it started to go right. And then we're going, this is great. And then when it went wrong and ultimately fatal, you know, we called it. We were fair in what we said here on Lansdowne Road. And Green Machine, Virgin Media, just no matter what the lad did, was just numb. Brian Kerr, the way he went on, very bitter man. Did an interview with Noel Mooney 4 years ago. And even he said that maybe the bitterness has become too much for Brian Kerr. And he's right, just from day one. Now, he's proven to be right, but from day one, he was just very bitter, I felt, towards Stephen Kenny. They used to be friends. I don't get it. So to answer your question, Glenn, yes. Darren Sweeney, Kenny was rubbish, end of. Hard to listen to someone bringing up stuff to try and make it out he'd done something worthwhile. He'd done nothing. Can someone tell me he brought a top player into the squad that another manager wouldn't have? No chance. Okay. You have your opinion, Darren, I suppose, wherever it is. Graham, players had no fear, which is not a good thing. Don't care what anyone else says. Dressing rooms are authoritarian. Christ, easy for me to say. / hierarchical by nature. Jesus, lads, I can't speak tonight. My jaw's killing me. Irish Jedi. I worry there's a feeling that the bad days of O'Neill and Trapp are being forgotten and romanticised just because Kenny didn't succeed himself. Doesn't mean the project can't work going forward. 100% agree. The project is sound. Just the implication was poor. Or the application, I should say, was poor. James Agnew. How you doing, James? Good to meet you last night, by the way. Sorry. Came up to when the anthems were playing, so sorry Evening, lads. Great show as usual. I can't emphasize enough how important this next hire is going to be. We need a coach who is going to be a bit more pragmatic, is a really good communicator, and can get the best out of our group of players. I definitely think the new manager is something to work with and get the new guy in before the friendlies in March. I really hope the FAI don't wait until the Nations League games to make an appointment. Best to get cracking with the new era soon. As 100% agree there, James. Graham, it can change around very quickly. It just takes one top-tier performance to shift standards. Colin Regan, bit of a catch-22 because he'd never won any big games. He had no authority to publicly drop someone like a hot snot. Either he couldn't because he needed the players. Daniel Granahan, I saw some of it and he said they got rid of some players like Randolph and Long was bad. This is Virgin Media. I thought that was ridiculous as those players were not being picked and clearly past their best. I believe Donald Randolph went to West Ham and became a third choice goalkeeper during that time. Irish Jedi. Also important that we don't fall into the trap of obsessing over the managers or who manages the senior team. The discussion of funding from grassroots through to the League of Ireland will dictate our future. Wheeler 123. It'll be interesting to see, is Carsley actually interested in a job? Maybe he could be Southgate's replacement after the Euros, but I hope not. Graham, the Shane Long thing was the right decision. Also, no one is crap anymore. It's a different landscape now internationally. The James McLean situation is weird. He should not be picking League 2 players. Dave McGuinness, Ken Gordy is absolutely spot on. The managers of the under 15s through to 21s are the reason these players are here and come through, and the reason why football is in a better place. Kenny took these players out of the churn from the underage groups and he stopped progressing internationally. Connolly, Ferguson, Malumbi, etc. have not improved and their trajectory slowed down. These youth coaches are not getting enough credit, and it's insulting to them to think that the progress is down to Kenny. That's something you'd probably go with, Nick, isn't it? Since you hate Kenny.
No, not at all. I mean, it's the one thing I would say.
I'm backtracking now.
Well, no, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like I think the highlight of the Stephen Kenny year was a 3-0 win against Scotland in the Nations League. Nations League we ultimately didn't perform very well in. So it's a sad one. I know, like I know for the last little while I've been quite critical of Kenny. I've tried to be balanced. I've never been personal with him. I've met the guy. He's a lovely fella. So it's never, I take no satisfaction out of this, but
no, none of us do really.
No, none of us do.
And
as I said, it was such an eye opener kind of seeing him last night break down in the post match interview. Like it's a difficult one to watch, and you do feel for him. But look, there are so many glaring things. It is elite sport, at the end of the day. And look at all the managers that get sacked every week, in England or in different domestic leagues or even internationally. I mean, if you look at Stan, even lads, not to go on a tangent about it, but if you look at Stan didn't even get a full qualifying campaign, and people say he did worse. Like Stephen Kenny, there's so many times he could have been gone. We went so many games without scoring a goal. We went so many games without winning a game. We had we had a World Cup qualifying campaign gone before it even started, and then the European Championship campaign gone before it started, and a couple of very, very poor Nations League campaigns. So there were several times where Kenny could have gone during his tenure, and it was prolonged. And I think by prolonging it, the results suffered, and as a result, I think he suffered as well.
Okay, Paddy Dandy, results business guys, and we know the FAI are on their knees financially. Need to
get teams competing.
Sorry,
sorry.
Graham Farrell, thank you, Martin. Our English oratory over there. Graham Farrell, did Dave McGoldrick retire because he saw the writing was on the wall? 2, did well under McCarthy, but Kenny never wanted him. Bit of bad form. Love McLean as well, but all the pleasantries were weird. I don't think it was a case he didn't want him. I mean, he played him in his last game. It was the Slovakia playoff. Maybe I think he had a lot of personal stuff going on. McGoldrick, that had nothing to do with Kenny, I don't think. Stephen Ring, didn't Robbie and John O'Shea get send-off games? Was that Robbie's one against Oman? Yes. America, the USA game, the only win, wasn't it? 2018 was the only win of 2018 under O'Neill, and of course the 4-1 against Oman, or 4-0, and Robbie Keane scored. That was in 2016. Pat Roach, the McLean thing's a joke. Great for Ireland, but in saying that, out of 103 of those caps, probably about 30 of them when he was shite too. Pat Roach is clearly Nick's burner account. Irish Jedi, something you don't hear enough is the lack of Kenny's young players kicking on a club level. Aaron Connolly and Troy Parrott being the prime example. Very true. Very, very true. Graham Farrell again. Yeah, Paddy, but at what cost to get some cheap bloke in? Oh, bit of a private conversation going on there. Darrell O'Connor. Ridiculous McLean didn't captain last night. Kenny even hesitated when asked if he would be in the presser with McLean beside him. Very strange. It was very strange. And then he had a nice little moment where they were chatting away about their time at Derry City because, you know, Kenny
that was brought on by Kenny, though. That was like a little bit of an olive branch kind of thing because he was basically playing tribute to him, saying, you know, like how well you've done 100, you know, you came in at 18 and you, because of the 6 mile rule and all this stuff, and then what a time you've had, and all it was kind of offering the olive branch a little bit there, and emotional how he was, and I just think I go back to how he must be with the players emotionally. You know, these are hardened pros playing at top levels. Dressing rooms are cutthroat places. They're not going to have that and be impressed by that every time they come into camp. They're probably taking the piss a little bit, and I think that's just the harshness of it.
I think so too. Yeah,
because they don't feel the same way as Stephen Kenny, and even James McLean said, you know, he feels that way. I think that's why they probably are alike in a way. But
yeah,
you know, James McLean was very clear that he's turned up and he's had injections and everything, whereas some lads have come to squads and pulled out and gone home and stuff. And we can name many a player who we've doubted their allegiance and commitment to Ireland over the years.
Yeah, no, fair. Great. Oh God, I bet you loved him till Roy had a pop at him. Do you know? And I bet you loved Harry Arthur. Anyway, Coleman is still the standard captain. Interesting here is taking the whole situation. He's probably thinking, what the fuck is happening here when he shows up? There was a captain, there was a team. What's happened? Johnny Unitas, fair play to McLean, but the fact that a player of his ability is 103 caps says it all. Previous 100% cap players, Keane, Duff, Given, Kilban, Staunton, no shame. McLean isn't on the same level. Another Nick burner account there. Graham Farrell, lads, even at club level, the armband is passed around like it means nothing nowadays. It means nothing anymore, unfortunately. Not unless you want to get cup final tickets. Obviously, something our cap's not going to be doing anytime soon. Breon Ford, lads, 2018 was a lot worse than this one. One win against the Yanks, numerous draws, and a pasting against Wales and Cardiff a year on after beating them to get to the playoffs. And let's not forget the North would have battered us 4-5-0 had Randolph not saved our bacon. Very true. That was a dreadful match. Irish Jedi, lads, you're spot on about James McLean. It was way over the top. I also thought for all the work Kenny has done, it would have been nice to see him get the attention last night rather than McLean again. And I don't think it was accidental either. But anyway, Robert Dugan. Lads, regarding next appointment, Steve Bruce, no Neil Lennon, no Chris Hughton. No. Is that no Steve Bruce? No Neil Lennon, no Chris Hughton? No? Or is that you want Steve Bruce? Not sure what's happened there. Glenn Forbes, I reckon Robbie Keane has a chance of getting the job. He has the status as a popular and successful ex-player and has a good relationship with the FAI. Personally, I would think it would be an awful fucking decision. I think we all voiced that one.
I think it would be fine for me if he, if perhaps he was going to do it for 2 years in lieu of back pay where he did fuck all. Sorry.
That was fucking spot on, mate. Spot on.
Yeah.
David McGuinness. It does appear that the FAI have a plan underway, and we will have someone in the dugout for the March window. Well, let's see. I mean, they've done well with this one. Obviously, they didn't want to pay him any money because well, what's the point? So if they have taken the time, worked away in the background, and then they have an oven-ready manager at either the turn of the year or just before the turn of the year, then okay, you go, fair enough, lads. Because they've handled this well, as we said. They've cut it. Said, look, there's no point in holding to next week. We'll do it now. Darrell O'Connor, please God, let the FAI not pick Lennon, Bruce, or Allardyce. Graham wants Carsley, Renard, or Poyet. Darrell wants Carsley, Pat Roach. Oh, that's it. Exactly. Someone to maximize our potential. I believe that's he's on about Carsley, Renard, or Poyet. Graham does not want Steve Bruce because he feels Jesus wept when Steve Bruce is born. Graham Farrell, lads, let's face it. Neil Lennon's getting it. He's available. He's probably not going to cost much. I love Carsley, but can't see it. Jesus, imagine Neil Lennon. Darrell O'Connor, I'd rather Roy Keane than Bruce, Allardyce, Lennon, or Hughton. Bit like from your camp there, Martin. Mick McCarthy, come on. Nobody will turn up to Aviva, says Graham. I'm telling you now, Graham. I'm not saying I want him. right? But I'm just saying, I think that they're going to go for feel good appointment. I'm telling you now. Julian Clark, did lessons learned ascending an under 21 manager, the head coach, go against Lee Carsley? I think it's a different standard though with Lee Carsley. He's coming from, this is a guy who managed at Coventry, managed at Birmingham, wasn't very good, tore up his own style of football, went to the Man City Academy, learned how to play the game the right way, and did very well at Man City, and then has worked wonders with the under 21s. You know, I think it's a whole different level. I think he's a higher tech version of Stephen Kenny, if that's a way of putting it. Dave McGuinness, Chris Hughton, that gets you the results. And we need the feel-good factor back in, and that's what they want. And we need the feel-good factor sells tickets, attracts sponsors, and gets bumps on seats. Yeah, give or take a few matches, and then you realise you're watching paint dry.
No, another factor of Chris Hughton, though, is that he'll have backing of probably Niall Quinn, all these ex-mates from 90 onwards and that kind of thing, 88, 90. They'll all endorse that. Liam Brady be talking about it. It's a little bit like Stephen Kenny, to be fair, did have backing of John Giles and Eamon Dunphy recently. I think it's just obviously because he's such a nice guy and they liked him. But it's a shame actually we didn't have the Holy Trinity basically on RTE doing the media duties of Stephen Kenny, because I think it would have been a lot different on TV.
We didn't even have Eamon Dunphy write an article today in the Star. Does anyone know what's happened to him? Is he all right?
Partying hard, maybe.
No, 78. He's well past it. Cheap Heat Productions podcast. Mick did get us to a World Cup, yes, but that was 21 years ago. Daniel Granahan, really? Mick McCarthy, we're not that brain dead. No, you may not be Daniel, but Gavin Byrne, 2 names, former coach at Man City, Mark Kennedy or Brian Barry Murphy. Colin Carrick. That was Gavin Byrne, by the way. Colin Carrick, we need a quick fix. We need to be very hard to beat again. Frustrate teams, and if that means lumping the ball up to Ferguson, then so be it. Who cares about possession football when we don't have the skill? The new manager needs to find the starting 11 and stick with it for a full campaign. Fuck the chopping and changing. It's not like club football when the manager can mix it up constantly. Darrell O'Connor, again, Steve Bruce is interested in the job, but we are not interested in him. Pat Roach, I'd like Roy Keane. It'll be Steve Bruce. Robert Duggan, I like Mick, but no. I think we missed a boat with Carsley. Roy Keane is too risky. Anthony Barry would be good. Graham Farr, let's face it, Lennon is getting it. That's actually he's added a bit more to it. Yeah. He's free now and he's not costing much. I'd love Carsley, but wouldn't go near Keane. He's a prick. Let me read that bit out again. Wouldn't go near Keane. He's a prick. Gus Poyet could be a shout, and his Greece contract runs out now, and he's available and said he wants it. Just for you, Martin, wouldn't go near Keane. He's a prick. Roy McNamara, 2018 was grim. There was no dead cat bounce after the disaster against Denmark at the end of the previous year. In 2017, we had been treading water until the World Cup playoff. But 2018 was a shit show, and we haven't played properly recovered from it yet. Alex Brown, Neil Lennon, nowhere near the job, for fuck's sakes. Johnny Unitas, love to see Duff or Carsley, and most likely Bruce McCarthy is a good shout. Would be a dose, though. Darrell O'Connor, even his son Alex saying he regrets switching from us to the north, as if he'd get any more caps than he did. Pure shite. Alex Brown, Lee Carsley, only for Alex. Graham, dream would be Carsley and Brian Barry Murphy, but think Keane and Brian Barry Murphy would raise eyebrows at the FAI in terms of revenue. Stephen Ring, want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Plays fast counter-attacking football. His first 2 seasons showed how good football he can play, especially against the bigger teams. I think they'll bring in Steve Bruce and Neil Lennon as the cheapest options.
Not the maddest shout ever, that, and that you could see like perhaps then John O'Shea being involved as well. It's not the maddest shout. It's not.
Okay.
Like yeah.
Okay. I don't want it though. Fucking terrible. Dave McGuinness, I can see Barry taking it. He's assistant at one of the biggest clubs in Europe. He would probably see it as a step back, as would his agent. He's a Premiership manager in the next 2 to 3, 4 years, and also possibly in the Bundesliga. That's what I'm saying. If you're Mark Canham, you go, listen, we're going to give you a 5-year contract. You're going to be gone in 2 or 3. There's John O'Shea or whoever, Duff or whatever, sitting beside him. He's going to take over from you. We're not going to be a stumbling block. We're not going to be sitting, we're not going to stand in your way, basically. So, just help us here, and then, impart your knowledge on the rest of the group. That's how I do it. Nice Christmas jumper, Martin, says Robert Duggan.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't
Yeah.
get a discount now, did I?
No.
Shots fired.
Shots fired, Robert.
I'll
Didn't get a
I'll tell you
discount.
what I'll do. I won't return it, but just you can return the money. I'm
I-
promoting it. I should be getting paid for this. No, it's very
God.
nice. In all honesty, it's very, very nice.
Looks lovely. Adrian King, as a Forest supporter, Houghton was absolute dog shit. He was dreadful. Dave McGuinness, I'd take Mick if we had to. He'd graft out results. Kevin McGuinness, glad Kenny's time is over now. Hopefully we can get someone in who can get people excited. I'm positive about the national team again. Ryan McCurt, Brian Kerr. Jesus, could you imagine an absolutely dreadful manager? Robert Duggan, I saw somewhere a few weeks ago that Sweden were considering Graham Potter. Yes, he used to manage up there as club manager, so he knows it well. Frank Gowan, I think he called it Big Mick do the Louis Van Gaal on the third. Sorry, I think you called it Big Mick do the Louis Van Gaal on a third time. Lucky easy for me to say. Could you imagine 3 times? Ronald Ireland Radar really does coke out with some utter baloney about Kenny. He wants Kenny to have his babies. Glad you said that, David.
Jesus.
Oh God. Graham Farrell. Jesus. I mean, to be fair, if you go to Ireland Radar, yes, there is an absolute.
There's an emotion. There's quite a bit of emotion there.
Yeah, a lot of moisture there. Graham
Carsley's kids.
I mean, he loves Kenny, but he fucking changed it to Ireland Radar quick enough, didn't he? Before he was gone. But anyway, Graham Farrell, Jesus, yeah, Andrews has to go. By the way, we're nothing against Ronan Carver. He does good work over there. To be fair, he does great work over there, actually, Ronan. So he's a good lad. Jesus, yeah, Andrew has to go, says Graham Farrell. Dave McGuinness, he's a decent man. Football is full of them. He's not the right man. I never wanted him to fail, but he did, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Shane Brown, want Carsley, Barry, O'Shea team. Acceptable Duff and Barry, Murphy. Or Roy Keane, Anthony, Barry Murphy as a number 2. All right. Alex Brownlee, Carsley head coach. BJ Callahan, assistant head coach. With us. Damien Duff, assistant to the assistant. Excuse me. Glenn Forbes. What's the new name of the pod going to be? Come on, you pods in green. Why change the name? The Green Machine is fine. You'll all do a fab job. I miss the chats about Irish football living in the States. You really bridged the gap when I feel home. Can't express enough thanks for your work. Means a lot. You're all on Santa's good list. Well, tell him,
Dave's not on Santa's good list.
I'm not on Santa's good list. Tell him to get me a new fucking flat, will you? Got turned down today for that one. Can't have a. You can't. No, I did. Yeah, you can't have a rabbit.
Yeah, but that's
wankers. Wankers. Anyway, I have a 3-legged rabbit. That is not a euphemism. I actually do have a 3-legged bunny. Bless her. Her name's Eileen. That was actually her name before she lost a leg.
How's the song go again, Dave?
Oh, jeez.
Not like a bit of bestiality. No, she.
My God.
Hi, Mr. Prendergast. No,
Jesus.
He went there.
Yeah.
No, you know, I know your man likes to watch us, and you know she's sort of like she's the moral.
She doesn't watch anymore. Jesus.
I hope not. She's the moral compass of the Green Machine.
She's obviously not, because you still say these things.
Well, I have a 3-legged rabbit. An actual 3-legged rabbit. She jumped off the hutch, and I was sitting there having a pizza, and all I heard was this crack, and I looked around and went, "Oh, that's not good." Eileen, come here, and the poor little thing was cowering in the corner. And I picked her up.
Can you normally finish your pizza? Come here, Eileen. Hang on, you've still got some pizza there. I thought you don't start until we don't normally start until the pizza's gone. Oh God, that right. Come on. David's got something very important to say. Not you, Dave McGuinness.
No, different David. Anyway, we're going off topic. I can't see Carsey taking it when he has the England job in sight, but it could happen. Daniel Granahan, will Stephen be given a job at the FAI, or will he take a break for a while? I think he should take a break. He will maybe a year or so. But you know, go on holiday, take his family on holiday, and just forget about it. I think his wife Siobhan, that's her name. I only know this because Jonathan Hill mentioned her in the program. That's how he knew. It's like you mentioned the lad's wife. He's fucking gone. You know what I mean? Like you're firing the guy. Stay McGuinness, Steve Bruce. Nah, we've better options. Pucci Mane. I believe you're a new new viewer, so welcome. Should be throwing everything at Harvey Renard. Another burner account for Nick. Why would Anthony Barry go backwards? Asked Bloom Gold. Why would he go back to Ireland? We're going to get someone cheap and shit. Anyone in League of Ireland isn't up to the standard. Stephen Ring could just imagine Dave in the Ireland job. His first team talk going on for an hour as he tries to pronounce that lad's name. I just drop him. Sorry, you dropped. I can't pronounce your first name. Sorry, mate. Chidozi Ogbeni.
Hey.
Yeah. So fuck you, man. Yeah. Declan Finnegan was on the same flight as me earlier today. Hope you're well. Should a new appointment be a team manager or a head coach? I would go for the latter. I think it's now coach. Yeah, coaching. That's the way modern football is now. Modern international football. A coach, a fan journalist. Dave, haha. Graham Farrell talking earlier on. Was I a fan or a journalist? I'm both. A fan journalist. That sounds like someone from Germany trying to say a fine journalist. Fan journalist. Anyway, it's been a long window. Dave McGuinness, it's only looked like it turned the corner because Barry was there and Barry ball was being played. It's very clear that as soon as Barry was gone, so was our ability to play well, attack and score goals. That period proved we have the players. Agree there, Dave? David? Yeah, once he went, we never recovered. The foam at the mouth of Kennyites should take note of how things went during the Barry Ball period. We do have the players to score goals and win games and dominate and impress set pieces. I'll never understand why Kenny didn't continue with that play. Jonathan Foley, Neil Lennon, a poor second stint at Celtic, but knows how to spot a good talent and will take a good interest in players north and south, no matter where they're playing. So Jonathan Foley, we have one for Lennon. Paul Coulton, how you doing, Paul? Do you guys think does the FAI will have or want a new manager in charge for the 2025 Nations League draw on the 8th of February? I believe that's the 2024 Nations League draw there, Paul. I'd hope. Well, I mean, I suppose sooner rather than later, lads. Or do you reckon? I mean, the first friendlies are March. I mean, I don't think they want to be in a situation where they don't have a women's manager, don't have a men's manager, and they don't have a first team sponsor. I think they'd want to have it wrapped up by then, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they will, and it will sell season tickets. I think, as Dave McGuinness actually said there, I think it's important that I think that's why they've made the decision earlier. I think it will if we've got a new manager lined up, I think it'd be a nice Christmas present to announce for everybody, and I think it will be done. And then it goes off to the, lots of speculation, probably a January or Christmas press conference to announce him in Dublin, and then watching the games and lots of interviews, a bit of a PR job going into the new year, the excitement of the draw, going over there to that, selling season tickets for what will basically be 3-4 friendlies and then competitive games come September. They need to get money in, so they need the manager in to kind of promote that.
Not big time. Pat Roach, O'Neill's the worst manager we've had, I reckon. It's got to the stage with him. I felt like he's playing certain players just to annoy everyone, and he's still bitter. Yeah, someone tell him that Mick McCarthy took over from, not Stephen Kenny. Paul Cullerton, love the show, lads. Hope you're keeping well, and thanks for all the episodes over the international break. Paul, I hope you're well. Haven't heard from you for a while. Hope you're doing well, and you're more than welcome, pal. We love doing these episodes. Colin Carrick, we need a quick fix. We need to be very hard to beat again.
Had that.
We had that, yeah. That's come up a second time. Paul Cullerton, what would love the former Switzerland manager, Vladimir Petrovic, done an unbelievable job with them and has tons of international experience. Out of box thinking. Doyle was right, in my opinion. Kevin Doyle on.
Can I throw out a quick random suggestion?
Go on.
Oh,
Rene Meulenstein. Rene Meulenstein.
I think if there was still a
Rene
Dutch involvement, I think if there was Dutch involvement still with the senior hierarchy, maybe it would be there. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Rene Meulenstein, okay. The man ran Man United with what was his name?
He's an assistant with Australia, and you'd wonder.
Sorry, your internet's gone a bit mad there. Right, we're moving on there. Brian Ford on Harvey Renard. If we can't get him, why not try and tempt the ex-Canada manager John Herman from Toronto FC? Has decent international experience with both New Zealand ladies and a Canadian men's and ladies team. Shane Brown, I also think one of the most disappointing aspects of Kenny's performance, which I'm surprised at, was his in-game management. So his personnel and timing were baffling in the games over the past year. He never learned at all. Graham, also last cheers for this. We as Irish fans need this, and will be a big year for the channel. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Graham. We are the voice of the fans. No other podcast out there gives you this much of a say. So we want to keep bringing it to you. Thanks for supporting us, and we're going to keep doing it. May have a different name next year, but we're going to keep continuing in the same vein, because you, the fans, need a voice. Alex Brown, had Robbie Keane not went to It's Not Real, I believe that's Israel, and done some other club on the continent, he would be in for the job. Dave McGuinness, outside the Irish media, there are no media outlets linking Kenny to Lincoln. I sense a plot by Kennyites. Rory, outside chance, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think you said it. Well, wasn't the maddest of shouts earlier, Martin. Jimmy Shill, hi guys, great chat as always. 2 matches to take out from me during the Kenny era, as if only. The playoff penalties defeat, where we were the better team and had enough chances to win that game. Also, the Portugal away game, when we were 1-0 up in Faro, I think with a new young team would have moved forward. If we won both of those games, as confidence would have been through the roof. I mean, there were so many possible turning points that we just did not take advantage of. Rob Minchin, as bad as the results have been, it doesn't feel like the same shit show it was after previous managers left. Still very excited of times ahead if right appointment made. Conor Ronan, completely ignored by Kenny, says Dave McGuinness. Chris Hewton would defo take it at 500,000 odd. Dave McGuinness again. Owen Loughran, I think the initial appointment of Kenny was financial, as FAI could afford a world-class manager, or couldn't afford a world-class manager, so pay payments to get monkeys, and I think the next manager in will be cheaper option. Robert Duggan, unless they already have a plan in place, I can't see an appointment anytime soon. I think it would be next spring, maybe even an interim manager for March. John O'Shea would fit the interim role. O'Shea's 11. Dave McGuinness again. If a manager doesn't want pundits' criticism, he can get results and reverse it. It was a mess. And what else can be expected? If we were winning every week, it would be different. Darrell O'Connor, I have to say we were all fair with Kenny here. Yes, we shouldn't lose to Luxembourg, but we beat them away convincingly. They are in a playoff now. Media had it out for Kenny before a ball was kicked. I don't think all the media were. I think a lot of the written media were on his side. The likes of the more contemporary journalists like Darren McDonnell and a few of those lads were. The older ones like Philip Quinn and Paul Rowan never really warmed to Kenny, I don't think. And a lot of McCarthy's acolytes in the media, Ian Hart, Jason McAteer, Richard Dunn, I think they were putting the boot in, and Brian Kerr, surprisingly. Alex Brown was watching when we beat Luxembourg 3-0 away in a beach in California and was convinced Kenny was the man. Then I realised it was only Luxembourg and we should be beating them 3-0 easily. Owen Loughran, I think the initial appointment of Kenny was a financial decision, as FA couldn't afford a top-class manager. That's come up again. Getting a lot of repeats. Dave McGuinness, Barry Ball beat Luxembourg 3-0, not Kenny's tactics. That can not be ignored, I'm afraid. Kenny's best period of play and results was when Barry was there, and it fell off a cliff when he left. Darrell O'Connor, find it surprising Kenny and Kerr were mates. I like Kerr, but he hasn't stopped undermining him since he took the role. Ironic, and him from a League of Ireland background. Also, he was dreadful as Ireland manager. Brian Kerr, don't care about his record. Never beat a team inside the top 80 in the rankings competitively. Dave McGuinness, the highlight was against a jaded Scottish team who were 72 hours out of a playoff. An overrated highlight. Graham Farrell, Stan, the poor chap was slaughtered because Delaney hung him out to dry, and Delaney and Hill did the same thing. Glenn Forrest, when we win the World Cup in 2026, where would be your dream location to watch the match, and which former Irish international would you want to watch it with? I can answer that one for Martin. Roy Keane, his boxers. Alex Brown. Johnny Unitas, are you also from Louisville, one of the most Irish cities in the world? Jason Fitzsimmons, see Chris Wilder.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, Chris Wilder.
Warnock will be next, won't he? Warnock.
I tell you what, did a great job. Dave McGuinness, Lennon God. No. What's the panel's thoughts on Northern Ireland's Michael O'Neill, or was he a tournament wonder? I mean, it's hard to say there, wasn't it? I think it was the right place at the right time, wasn't he? Michael O'Neill, I don't think you ask him to be in charge of the Irish team. No, God, no. Jamie Cope, I was excited when Kenny was appointed and really wanted him to do well. It was obvious he would be up against it, though. We ran Portugal and Serbia close twice. Beat what now looks like a decent Scottish side 3-0. I probably should have beaten them away too. But there was also Luxembourg, Armenia, Greece, etc. It's the right call in the end, and I wish him well. Hopefully, whoever takes it can have more joy. Ryan McCourt, why does everyone hate Lennon? Because he comes with a lot of baggage. He just comes with a lot of baggage. Martin Fitzpatrick, Lee Carsey, please. Jonathan Foley, Ollie Horgan, good old Ollie. Evan Ganley, keep up the good work, lads. Thank you, Evan. Stephen Kenny said Dave McGuinness is a twat. I'm not saying that, David. Apparently Stephen Kenny did, according to Blue and Gold. Will it make me back to you stick to manage Ireland? I do. I know the two lads don't. I do. Alex Brown, John Herdman was absolute dog shit. I'm sorry, but no. Carlos Queiroz for manager would be ugly, but I bet he would get results, says Gary Jackson. Coming in, we're coming into the last few comments here, lads. Darrell O'Connor, well, in fairness, there was calls for Kenny's and change after O'Neill. So while it may have suited financially for Kenny from the FAI, public opinion was positive. Some wanted him over McCarthy. Darrell O'Connor, Luxembourg are in a playoff now, not the pushovers they used to be. Daniel Granahan, is there a choice for a new manager that most of the journalists and fans would like to have? Please, all sides. I think Carsley's really the one, isn't he? The most realistic one that they all want.
I mean, they've all got question marks about them, haven't they? Carsley will be the under-21, the lack of experience and where he's come from, and he comes into Ireland. They're going, well, England's under-21s would probably beat Ireland, so you'll think he was working with better players there, the pick of all that incredible English under-21 talent. So there's question marks on him. There's the inexperience factor, of course, as well. And then, Chris Hughton, we know the style of football. We know that with Mick, we know that's question marks. And are we regressing because we had this idea of Stephen Kenny going to play a bit more progressive football? So it's very hard to get it right, but it's a massive question now for the FAI. And, I think fair play again. They have done this early today, but, there will be a board meeting next week and we should know a lot more by then. It might even be that this is all in place. And next week, we might even have a new manager because they might be ratifying that next week. Basically.
Hopefully
it'll be great. And it just would stop all the... Look, it's great to have a crack and chat about this all, isn't it? But, it's going to stop all the speculation and things now. Like I've seen as well now, Josh Cullen's come out and said, thank you, Gaffer. Like all the players are coming up with their little social media posts. Is it really them? We don't know. We've seen some really heartfelt posts from people as well who've worked with Stephen Kenny, of course, as well. So, the whole thing, it does just show what a decent guy he was. It's not worked out, but, we've had 3 incredible years of covering him and having great engagement on the podcast about the ins and outs and the joys and the negatives of Irish football. And long may that continue.
A lot more of those. Last couple of comments, lads. We're going to wrap it up. John Buckley says, give the job to Damien Laney. He knows everything. Oh, he's a fucking chancer. Stephen Ring, I think someone said on here last night that Renner took a 75% pay cut to take over the French women. So while a great shout, can't see it happening. New York, he was not on tonight, actually, conspicuous by his absence. Alfie Connolly, Lee Carsley, time. Gavin Byrne, when Kenny took over, it was like we had to start from fresh. The next manager feels more like we would. We need a manager to progress and build on what Kenny has done. And the last comment from Darren. How do you pronounce that, Nick?
O'Harshnasia?
O'Harshnasia? Darren O'Harshnasia. Sorry for butchering your surname, Darren. I think you're a first time commenter.
No, Darren's been on a good few times before,
Good man.
Bose brothers.
Yeah, there we go. But hey, Bose brothers. Well, he would love Damien Duff to take over. I would too, but I don't think he's ready. And he needs to calm down a little bit. Graham Farrell, Eleonora in Drimina with Paul McGrath. Good on you, Eleonora. Daniel Mullen, I think we need to go for Gus Poyet if Greece don't qualify for the Euros. And Evan Ganley with all players fit, who would be starting 11 with the current squad. I've got a temp, by the way. Right. We'll do this quickly, lads, and then we'll wrap it up. Bazunu in goal. Festi right back.
Yeah.
I think if Seamus Coleman is fit and playing, he's still probably our first choice right back, regardless of his age.
In centre, what are we going for? We're going for O'Shea.
I'd say at the moment, Collins and Scales probably manning left back.
Yeah, I'll go with
Bring it
that.
back four, yeah.
I suppose in the center it's going to be O'Shea. Sorry, it's going to be Malumbi. Not Malumbi. It's going to be Cullen, Knight. Who else? Malumbi.
On current form, you'd have to go with Sammy Smolix, wouldn't you? If he was going to play for us, I think Jack Taylor's going to come into the frame, but definitely Cullen. I'd say, yeah, as I said, on
Nice.
current form, and I suppose given the last few months, you probably go maybe Cullen, Knight, possibly Andy Moran, and then definitely Ogbene, Johnson on the wings,
Yeah.
Ferguson down the middle. That's probably what I go with.
Definitely great service there for the big man up front. I thought Johnson was excellent. Point to prove.
Try and find out when O'Dowd is back. I mean, that will be good.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that fucking you. Don't get me started, mate. John Foy, too early for Duffer. Dave McGuinness, the Eleanor is a pub in Drimna for your information. And Graham says that's your local. Oh, sorry. I'm not from Drimna, so I don't know. Martin hasn't got a clue where Drimna is because he's not from Ireland. Sorry. that was a cheap dig, wasn't it?
Dave's a pub. I'm allowed to go in pubs and Dave's not.
I am allowed to go in pubs. Excuse me. I had a nice couple of pints of Guinness Zero yesterday whilst I was doing my actual work for the pre-game pod. Brian Ford, love the show as always, lads. Love tuning in. Thank you, Brian. We love you tuning in, by the way, Brian. Dave McGuinness says it's a smashing pub. Right, lads, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. Oh, an hour of comments there. Thank you so much for interaction. Without you guys at home getting involved, it would be nothing. We are the voice of the fans, and that's why we're going to read out your comments.
And do subscribe, Dave. They need to subscribe.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not watching us on YouTube, please do watch us on YouTube and subscribe over there. Lansing Road Green Machine. Also, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we are on Instagram. And you can head over to thegreenmachinepodcast.com for articles. thegreenmachinepodcast.com for articles and loads of other stuff. We got some big things coming next year. Some big plans, guys. Very exciting stuff. Really can't wait for it. It's been a cracking year. 100%, lads. I have a 100% record for all Ireland matches this year. Went to every single one of them. Just saying. Home and away.
Fair play.
Come on, lads.
Yeah, fair play. I'll give you the credit where it's due. Yeah, fair play. No, that is brilliant.
Right,
and we've got the Liam Brady thing coming up, Dave, in London, which will be
16th,
good. Liam Brady's very insightful and opinionated, as we know, and we'll have him on the 14th of December in the Claddering in Hendon, where we'll be able to have a chat with him, signing copies of his book. Very, very good. It's actually interesting you talking about Stephen Ireland earlier. Did you know this? I didn't know this from the book. Obviously, I have read it. That Stephen Ireland, when he was asked to come back by Trapattoni, to consider it, he demanded basically that he wanted the number 10 shirt and he would come back. And
Jesus.
Liam Brady couldn't translate that for Trapattoni at all.
You wanted the number 10 jersey to come back? Sorry.
Stephen Ireland wanted the number 10 shirt to be taken off Robbie Keane and given to him, and then he would consider coming back. That was a very interesting insight, I thought, into the book. But there'll be more stuff, obviously, at the Claddering on the 14th of December. But yeah,
14th December. Martin and I
Claddering, Hendon.
Yeah, Martin and I are going to be there. Head over to the Risk London group, either on Twitter. You can head over to risklondon.org. Am I saying that right? For more information. Myself and Martin will be there. Martin will be the quiz master, and I shall be there as well. And it's going to be fantastic. Signing books and everything is going to be brilliant. I actually know that Stephen Ireland one. I remember a request was put in for his jersey with Umbro, and that was leaked out. That actually they took his measurements to start getting ready. Like, he got so close that he was going to come back.
Yeah,
he obviously just did it because he knew
he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, that's why he knew he wasn't going to give him Stephen Ireland's number. But anyway, listen, we're going to leave it there, lads. Thank you so much for your support over this week. It's been an absolute pleasure going to all the Ireland games. It hasn't been a good year, and unfortunately, it's culminated in the manager losing his job tonight. But listen, it's not been a very good year for Irish football. But we will be back with live episodes and podcasts throughout the week. As I said, big things coming next year, some changes, some very good changes, but this will continue. We still will be the voice of the fans. Lads, we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys, Martin and Nick, for coming on. And we're going to leave it there. Very sad it didn't work out for Stephen Kenny, but that's the way it goes sometimes, and it is results business at the end of the day. And well, there you go, lads. So good night, God bless, and as always, come on, you boys in green.